we're moving on to ring two. Ring two is several church planting movements in your city, preferably church planting movements that represent different denominations and traditions. I know what I'm about to say is controversial, so what? I can say it anyway, I guess. Here's a couple of things. First of all, even though this is not an exact science, over the last 200 years, we've discovered that if a city has one church for every 10,000 people, you probably have about 1% of the population going to church. If you have one church for every 1,000 residents, you have more like 12 to 17% of the population going to church. If you can get that ratio down to one church for every 500 residents, that number can go up as high as 40%. And therefore, when you look at your city, the main way to increase the number of the body of Christ so that the number of Christians is growing faster than the population at large, so that the body of Christ is becoming more and more an influence of grace and truth in the city, you've got to plant a lot of churches. You just have to, a whole lot. And I could tell you some stories, but I won't, because I'm going to keep on going on this. But the other thing you need a number of different church planting movements, and here's the reason why. You know, I'm a Presbyterian, and I like it. And I actually, if you know me, you know that, the next thing I'm going to say is something congenial, but here I'll just say, I think Presbyterians are right. Now, the next thing I'm going to say is, but I'm not. I don't have time to say something congenial. You just have to take my word for it. I am a congenial guy. And therefore, it's kind of, it makes me wonder why it is that even though there have been places in the world in which God has used Presbyterians to really do amazing revival. I mean, largely, 1%, 100 years ago, 1% of the Korean population Christian, 100 years later, like 40%, and to a great degree, a lot of that was Presbyterian. God used the Presbyterian churches for a great revival. But, it's odd, there in Africa, he sort of worked with the Anglicans, and down in Latin America, he did that with the Pentecostals, and why is he doing that? I mean, I thought, weren't we right? I mean, we're right. And so why would God honor people who don't have the right view of several important things? And the answer is, I don't know, but he just does. And I think it's because, as hard as we try, it's taken me years to admit this, but I said, you know what? I'm not sure everybody in New York City who becomes a Christian is going to want to be a Presbyterian Christian. I don't think they're all going to want to be Pentecostal. I don't think they're all going to want to be Baptist or Anglican. But you know what? If you've got vibrant church planting movements in all those various traditions, you're much more likely to reach the broad range of people in a city. And you know why what I just said was controversial. But there it is. I really do believe that the differences between denominations are significant. I don't think they're insignificant, but I also know that we've all got something wrong, and we're not totally sure what it is. I mean, every one of us, we've got something right and something wrong, and we've got to be humble toward each other. And we also see that God uses people that believe the basic gospel together, and so he uses them, and out they go. And so you need that. I'll tell you why I've now I'm about to get to ring 3. Ring 1, the theological vision. Ring 2, 5 or 6 at least vital church planting movements in your city. A church planting movement is when you have a group of churches in which the majority of those churches plant another church every 5 years. A range of them so that there's different kinds of churches going. Now, why do I put this before I talk about parachurch ministries and other kinds of ministries? I'll tell you, and I don't think it's a bias. The main way to build the foundation for the whole body of Christ is to build up the church. The church is the one kind of ministry that you have to invest money in to start it, but after 2 or 3 years, as the Lord blesses, it becomes self-supporting, and more than that, it becomes a funder of all the other ministries in the city. There's no other ministry that happens like that. The churches are communities in which all the other kind of ministries, the people doing those ministries need homes. They need communities. They need communities of Christians who are different. The parachurch ministries tend to be specialists, but the local church tends to be a generalist church with all kinds of people of different kinds of ages and races and so forth. And there's a certain sense in which the spiritual oxygen for everything else that's going to happen in the city is being produced by the churches. The churches produce the oxygen so all the other plants can breathe. The churches produce the funders. They develop the number of people who can give. You've got to expand the church, or all the other things you want to see happen in the city aren't going to happen.